Time to set your compass to the North Star of SaaS podcasts. Or is that a satellite? Maybe a flashlight? Oh well, now you're sailing with FounderQuest.
So we are here with JP Boily, who's a longtime friend of Honey Badger, and we were just talking about when we actually met. I think it was like 2013 or 14 at a RubyConf. I almost want to say, I know I ran into you guys like a few places. One of them I want to say was Ruby on Ails. And
I was not
Ben,
there.
were you not there? I mean, some other people from Rainforest.
Yeah, exactly. Russ from Rainforest was there, and I think he was the first one to they made it go up on the stage, and he didn't know why, because he was the first to get a beer at 10 a.m. or something like that. So yeah, he was there, but I was not there. But apparently, it was great. I think we've met probably at RubyCon in 2013.
And you were working at Rainforest, though, I believe, at the time, maybe, or
Not
was
yet.
it not yet? Okay,
Not yet.
Wow.
But,
Okay,
but I've met the
Yeah.
guys there actually, and that's an interesting conversation about like how conferences can have a major impact. I have met Ross from Rainforest and Simon, who was there back then too, at the RubyCon, and it was like we had a great time. And they were hiring back then, but like in SF. So I was like, that's fine. We hung out, we had fun, it was great. And a few months later, they do TechCrunch, and I'm like, hey guys, when you are hiring remote, let me know. I would be interested, and blah blah blah. He's like, yeah, we'll think about you. I was like, yeah, like just being polite. And like 2 hours later, he's like, yeah, let's do it. And then it took a few months before I actually onboarded. But yeah.
Wow. Okay, man. So we've known you like a really long time, pretty much since we started going to conferences with Honey Badger, because we started Honey Badger in 2012. And I know Rainforest was a customer of Honey Badger, I believe.
That's possible. I don't remember.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember.
I think so.
Okay. If they were, I don't. Maybe that was your doing. I'm not sure. If it was, thank you for that.
Gladly.
But yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, and we've met at a few conferences.
Yeah, the MicroConf.
MicroCon, yeah, a couple times for sure.
Yeah, and I remember that. I think the last time we saw each other at the Tropicana there in the room with the whiskey and all that was, yeah.
Yeah, always travel with some whiskey. Yeah, we were like maybe at 10 people or something. It was great. It was great. And yeah, I didn't go to a MicroConf since then. Have you guys?
No, I don't think I've been since 2019, maybe. That might have been my last. Then 2020 happened, and then we all stopped going to conferences. But I'm like thinking that there's a really good chance I'll be there next year. Like I was really regretting not going this year. There was a lot of FOMO.
Yeah, same. I really wish I was there, but like they moved the date, and now it's so close to my daughter's birthday. Like it just doesn't fit. It's like 3 days before or something. I don't want to leave my wife with all the organization and all that stuff. Just a couple of days before. But that was a great conference. So looking forward to it.
We did go to Minneapolis one time. That must have been after. That was after the Vegas move, obviously. So that must have been.
I think that was 2019.
Was that 2019?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so it might have been 2018 that I saw you last.
My memory is too fuzzy for that.
I know. In any case, at the time, you were building Metrics Watch at that time,
yeah.
I believe, your company that you recently sold. How long were you building Metrics Watch? Like 9-10 years or something like that?
I think it was around 8-9 years. Not exactly 10, but close to it. But it was like super part-time for the first few years, like a few hours here and there per week and things like that. And I struggled to make it to full-time. Because when I started, if we take a step back to when I started Metrics Watch, it was originally on a very bad premise, like many businesses, I'm assuming. And I was like, yeah, we at Rainforest, like we were putting out blog posts and things like that. And sometimes they were picking up like on Hacker News and things like that. Like 50,000 people were reading it in the first 24 hours. But then we realized only the day after sometimes. And I was like, yeah, this would have been a great time to interact with the community. What a missed opportunity. So I was like, let's have some Google Analytics alerts around it so that we know when we have spikes in the traffic or something like that. So I was like, this is a use case for us. And at that time, my daughter was like a baby. She was not sleeping. So I was not sleeping. So I was like, just let's start something. What a great idea during the night.
Yeah.
And yeah, I started that, and I was like, yeah, agencies will for sure want that to send alerts to their clients when they have a spike of traffic. And spoiler alert, they don't care at all.
You mean they're not watching Hacker News?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
And they don't care about the spike in traffic in general. Even clients They generally don't care. But what happened over the few months after I launched it, because I had the clients in like really quickly, a few months, but what I realized was the agencies were having a different problem, basically. Their reporting was an issue. So they were spending a lot of time copy pasting stuff from Google Analytics and various platforms to a report that looked shitty to send to their client as like an Excel file or a PDF at best or something like that. And there were, of course, already reporting platforms. But what I thought was like, even those reporting platforms do have a lot of friction. Why is it not in their inbox when they need it? Instead of, yeah, you set up some reports or dashboards to your clients and they use it for a month or two and then stop using it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when Metrics Watch basically pivoted to a reporting platform. So that's what the last few years were. Metrics Watch was like an email-based marketing reporting platform. So sending all the key metrics to your clients, all white label, and it still exists. I say what it was, but it's still that. It's just not me anymore. And during that time, at the beginning, I did the pivot, but I wasn't fully sure of that because I started to discover what the alerts were useful for. The alerts product is still alive and still has enterprise science. And if you go on the website, there's like big logos like Electronic Arts, Spotify, and like big companies like that who were using it. And in general, it's not that there's a spike in traffic, but just know, hey, things are going south. Your conversion rate is super low, or you didn't have any sales in like the last X minutes. Where this makes a lot more sense. So, for example, we had a French company who were selling shoes for a ton of money per year, and their shopping cart went down for a few hours before even realizing it, and they lost tens of thousands of euros without even knowing it was down. So it was just like a small chunk of their checkout or something like that. So there was no monitoring around that. So the closest to, because ideally it would be monitoring your bank account or your Stripe account, knowing there's no money in. But like the closest that we had was like Google Analytics and like purchase there and things like that. So
yeah. That's cool. So when you first launched, you're not getting the results you initially thought. I'm just curious how you got in front of, so I guess like agencies started like seeing this and identifying, I can use this for something else, or did you go and do research to figure out like what to pivot to?
Yeah, it was conversation about like what agencies were needing around that space. It was like, yeah, I already have something. If people in my network who might use that. So I started to have some conversation with like potential clients and people I reached out to via cold emails and things like that. And it turned out like reporting was an issue, but I made a bunch of mistakes, of course. And like at the beginning, I was just like, yeah, it's just going to be Google Analytics. It's going to be just numbers and lists, no graphs at all. Because yeah, you don't need graphs, right?
Yeah, people hate graphs and anything
Exactly.
visual. They just want to read.
Of course. So I didn't listen to them, and I was just like, yeah, I'll do what I think is best for you guys. So it took me a little while to realize that like I was wrong, but yeah, I eventually made it up to you. It's also like technically like putting graphs in email is not something fully solved because yeah, you have like Chart.js and all those nice JS libraries, but JS in emails doesn't work. So I had a couple of versions over years. So there was like a Ruby library that did generate images. I think it was called Gruff.
Gruff. Yep. Yeah.
It was good for what I needed to start with. And then at some point, it was just too limited for my needs. And I think not super maintained or something. So I was like, I need something different and something nicer also. No offense to the Gruff author. So I was just like, there must be a way. So yeah, I built up an app that was basically running Chart.js headless, like having API calls, generate, return a blob or something like that. I don't remember the exact details, but it ended up being that. So yeah, when I started to listen to people a little bit more, it helped for sure.
Yeah.
When people are just at you with their credit card and asking questions, sometimes it's interesting to listen to them.
Yeah, I remember this was like the topic back at like during microconf back then too, and it's like a common story. Like you start with one thing and then you realize you were wrong and you have to pivot. Like I think like Rob Walling had a little bit of a similar experience in early Drip, which I think was around that time. Yeah,
it's a pretty common mistake. Hopefully I won't do it again, but yeah, of course other people will do it.
Unless you just take the lazy option and just copy a competitor right out of the gate, like Honey Badger, you know.
But even then, like,
No,
it's
yeah.
always tricky because it's finding the right balance. Because at Rainforest QA, for instance, we had a lot more people and a lot more clients and all that stuff. So we could not listen to everything. So we said no to a bunch of things. And maybe it made sense or not, doesn't really matter here. What I'm going for here is that, like, sometimes you don't want to listen to everything because you'll end up with the Homer Simpson car. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember that. So the Homer Mobile or something like that, which is like just weird. And you don't want to have all sorts of features that are not used because anyway, like, you will have features that will not be that used, but you don't want to have too many of those. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so that was just finding the right balance, and it took me a while. I'm not sure I found it exactly, but yeah, I found some spot that worked, and where, okay, this client might be worth listening to at, like, this small little options here. That's just like a boolean that will change things for him and make us a few grand per year.
What was like the growth? Because you said it was like more part-time in the beginning and then it started to pick up and you went full-time on it at some point. What was the growth trajectory like, I guess, over the life of the business?
Slow, very slow. So it took me a few years before going full time. I don't remember exactly when. And then I hired my first employees, and it was early pandemic when I hired my first employees. Before that, I was alone, and I was like, yeah, it's probably a good idea. And I started to think about, like, how can I make it a bigger business? Also, before that, I was like, I'm fine alone. But yeah, I started to think about, what if I could make it just a little bit bigger. I don't want to IPO or anything like that. That's not the point. But what if we could go from 1 to 5 or 10 or 15, and then eventually maybe sell the business for X millions and things like that? So started to think about it and hired some people, some who were friends before, some who became friends. Like, the biggest we were was 4, so it was never a big business. I think it was in 2020 or 2021 that I hired my first employee, which was an interesting one.
Yeah, what were the roles? Like, who did you hire first?
The first role was marketing because I suck at marketing, especially at marketing to marketers. That's not my thing. I live in Quebec, which explains the French Canadian accent, and I wanted to do just English marketing. So hiring someone here didn't make much sense for the most part, just because, yeah, not being native in English will maybe translate badly in blog posts and things like that. That's not fluid for the most part. And I was lucky, like, a friend of mine reached out to me, and she was, yeah, I have my boyfriend who just moved off from Scotland. He's a marketer. I'm like, holy cow. Okay, let's talk. And yeah, great guy. And I started to work with him like a few weeks after that. So that was a great fit. And then I hired a developer a few months later, I think. And then it was good. We had a good vibe. It was really fun, at least on my end of things. Hopefully they would say the same thing. But yeah, ask them. I think it was good. I'm still friends. I'm still friends with them.
We'll get them on the show next week.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good until it started to go south a little bit in late 2022, early 2023. I realized that early 2023, I was going into a wall in terms of numbers. There was like this essential financial crisis that was slowly, we started to see. And Matrix Watch was not a core tool. Like, the reporting is like not something you need to run your business. Honey Badger is something you need to run your business. Well, at least if you want to do it right. So some people were like, yeah, we need to cut costs just in case because our clients are cutting costs just in case. There was quite a bit of churn, and I had to let go of my friend at the marketing role and to do some hard decisions on salary too. And yeah, the developer left a few months later, so I ended up alone basically in the span of 6 months or something. So going from it all goes well to I'm back alone to losing one of our biggest clients during the summer after that. And yeah, late 2023, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. I was like, yeah, I'll put the business for sale like in a year or two. I just need to put the numbers back to something that makes sense or and whatnot. And during the conversation, he's like, well, what if you sold right now? How much would you sell? I'm like, I have no idea. And how much would you sell in like a year from now? I have no idea. Do you want to work for that delta? That's an amazing question. Yeah. So a week later, the business was on sale on acquire.com. did some back of the napkin maths, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm done with reporting. Like that was not a passion to start with. So yeah, that was just like, I'm in my 40s now. Do I want to do another 10 years of reporting in analytics? No. That's
Yeah.
a clear no. So yeah, I was just due to move to something else. So yeah, I've put the business on sale on like acquire.com, which is a platform. I don't know if you know, guys, which is just like the Facebook marketplace of businesses.
You think it was like Micro Acquire before
Yeah.
the rebrand? I remember. So it's the founder's is Andrew Gazdecki, I believe. And the reason that name is burned into my brain is because he went on Cameo, like the site where you can get like celebrities to record like video messages for us. But he went and was having I don't know if you ever watched Silicon Valley, but Russ
Yeah.
Hanneman, the Tres Commas billionaire from Silicon Valley, he had him like basically do these messages for a while, and just the way he said the name, it's like you can't forget it. So it was genius marketing tip there is get Russ Hanneman to repeat your name like 50 times. But yeah, Micro or acquire.com now. I'm curious to hear how the experience with them was too. I don't think we've ever talked to anyone who actually sold a business through there.
It was a really smooth process. For the most part, the platform was a really smooth process. Like, you just create a profile there, you list a bunch of like business metrics. It's mostly anonymized, but of course, like when you say who are your competitors and your email-based reporting tool, well, that's not anonymous. So yeah, I had like a friend like reaching out to me just the day after, like, hey, you're selling metric watch? Yes. But that was fine. He was looking for a business on acquire.com, so that's why he got the email. And yeah, you just list the business there, the price you want, like the multiples and all that stuff. You explain your story, you put P&L statements and things like that, as much detail as you can. And when they press publish, I think they send an email the day after or something like that, like with the new listings and things like that. So there was quite a bit of interest a few days after that. I was like, yeah, I'll sell the business in a week or two. That sounds amazing. Spoiler alert, it took more time than that. So it was like in late November or early December last year, basically. And yeah, things didn't move that much. And then in January, I had a guy reaching out whom we have a few friends in common. So I didn't know him at all, but like I have friends who work with him and things like that. So it was like, huh, interesting. And we have like similar backgrounds in Ruby. So it was a really good fit. So I was like, this sounds pretty promising. So we went back and forth until he made an offer and we figured out like a number that would work for both of us. But then things were get a little bit complicated in terms of like Canadian IP when you add some grants from the government and things like that. So we had to navigate that for a while. I'll let the details for another episode. But yeah, it took like maybe a month after that until we finalized things. It should have been massively faster, but it's just the IP stuff took. And then we settled on a price and all, and it just happened. So acquire.com takes 4%, but they are very helpful on that. I'll say you don't need a lawyer. Maybe it's not true, but I didn't take a lawyer.
Yeah.
They have all this paperwork and people helping them and like probably lawyers working with them and all that stuff. So, and
so they offload some of that, it sounds like. Okay.
Yeah, and this is an escrow service. So when the buyer puts the money on the escrow service, it's there, it's safe, and then you can transfer your assets, which for a digital business is basically credentials. So we spent a whole day changing credentials, disabling 2FA, re-enabling 2FA, like 7 hours straight. It was fun. Turns out no one does it the same way. So it was interesting. And then after that, there is like, I don't remember how it's called exactly, but like basically a period where the buyer has time to look at the assets and make sure that like he has everything he's supposed to have. And during that time, I was a little bit stressed. I was like, I don't have access to anything anymore, and I don't have the money. Yes, it's on escrow.com, but do I want to learn how to get that money? Like, no. But yeah, like a couple of days later, you released it. Maybe not even a couple of days, just 24, 48 hours. I don't remember. But yeah. And then I was like mostly done with Metrics Watch. It was like mid-March. So we're still having monthly calls for the first year. So if there's like stuff blocked and like things like that.
Yeah, nice. So it sounds like 3-4 months was the total.
I would, yeah, 4 months something, and like maybe 2 months between the first offer, between the first contact and the final release of the founds.
Yeah.
That was a very interesting, but also very stressful period. I have more white hairs than I had before.
I'm sure. Sounds like it. Man, when you were talking about just like 22, 23, though, I don't know about you, Ben, that was taking me back a little bit because like just we, to a lesser extent, but we definitely felt that like, yeah, people were evaluating costs and looking for places to cut. I know a lot of people were in that position and some worse than others. Yeah.
And even big businesses. It's just that the impact was different. Like, I would not name names, but huge companies who hire like 30,000 engineers during the pandemic, but then had to let go 10,000 of them like in 2022 or 2023, which is a bummer, of course, for those people, but they still have more employees than before. So everyone like were like, oh, pandemic, all the numbers are through the roof. We can hire and grow, and it's like going to be amazing forever, but forever didn't last long. So
yeah. Yeah, and then the interest rates started rising in the US too. That I know probably didn't help things here.
Yeah, same year in Canada. Yeah, but it was fine. I mean, I'm in peace with that. Of course, sending it a year later would have been better, but that's fine. I'm ready for a new page. So what I did after selling was basically I had some things to wrap up until late April or something like that, or early May. And then once I wrapped that up, I was like, I'm just going to take a break. My daughter is 10, so I was just going to spend the summer with her and take no decisions until the summer is wrapped up. So that's mostly what I've done.
You weren't hacking on another app on the side?
I almost did, but then stopped myself. I wanted to take the full step back.
Well done.
I actually wanted to.
I don't think Ben would have resisted that urge.
No, I think
Not exactly true, because I actually started a new tool late 2023, but barely just scratched the surface during the Christmas break. Because what do you do during a Christmas break? Of course, you start a new SaaS business.
of course.
So I bought a license of Jumpstart Rails, which is like basically a SaaS in a box from Chris Oliver from Go Rails. It's an amazing product. You spend a few $100 and basically you have all the base for a SaaS business, including teams, roles, billing, and all that stuff. Great stuff. So started to work on a product there, but barely. Didn't make it to functional. So yeah, I still kind of wish I did it, but so I'll tell you about the idea and the bad premise. So the bad premise was like all the cool SaaS businesses have changelogs, right? Well, that's not true, but let's assume it's true. And I use a changelog tool to just publish to my customers what are the new features, integrations, and bug fixes and things like that. But it was shitty. I won't name the tool, but it was just shitty. And I was like, there must be a better way for me not to have to maintain that, or barely. So I was like, AI, of course. So the idea was to just like, okay, Metrics Watch was a monolith, or mostly. So it could just be a changelog.md file that you have to commit new stuff with every PR. So if there's no commit in if there's no change in the changelog file, then the build should fail. And it should propose you what should be the changelog items from your commits if you didn't make any. And like basically mostly automating that with some approval process to go to an email to clients and things like that. But yeah, I didn't make it to prod. The reason being, I started to think about like, let's take a step back, because like there was a fast forward, like there was a couple of months of pause between I started that in December, and I basically didn't do anything in 2024. It was just like I was focused on Metrics Watch and selling the business. And when I sold that, I was like, okay, what do I do with that now? So I took a step back. What do I want to do with Metrics Watch after Metrics Watch? So I was like, maybe starting a new SaaS, of course, that sounds fun. What kind of SaaS do I want to do, or what kind of SaaS do I don't want to do? So there was like a few criteria that were pretty obvious to me. I don't want to be business critical, as in like if I'm down for 5 seconds, it's the end of the world. We need to talk about SLAs. I don't want that. I don't want to be down, but I don't want to talk about SLAs for 5 seconds.
It's a good choice.
Uh, so there was that. I wanted to have developers or SaaS founders or product people as clients. There was like a few criteria. I don't want to be business critical, but I don't want to be too unimportant to run the business. And that's where I think a changelog tool felt a little bit too risky for me, because it's easy to ditch. You just send an email. It's very easy to replace. And I'm sure there's like great businesses. I've discovered a bunch of great businesses that do that. Great for them. It's just not for me. At least, yeah. And that's where I decided to spend the summer thinking about nothing and doing nothing. Before the summer, I had a bunch of conversation with a lot of people who were willing to start new businesses, either agencies, SaaS businesses, hire me as a full-time employee, hire me as a freelancer. And I didn't tell yes to anyone, was my motto. I didn't say no to a lot of people, but I didn't say yes to anything. But now I did say yes to someone. Right now, I'm working as a consultant for a Canadian business called UdQ, where some friends of mine were working. Rob Yurkowski, that maybe you know, and Dave Sullivan, that you sure know, who built, I think, the Python library for you guys, or worked on it. So they reached out to me and they knew I would be looking for something possibly. So I'm working 3 days a week for them right now. It's fun. It's great to be just a developer, quote unquote, not having to think about all the business, all the stress about like the financial and all that stuff, and having my hands full time in the code. So that's fun times for now.
Yeah. What do you think that would be like, Ben?
Well, I was just seeing this morning or yesterday or something. Oh, it was this morning. I was on Blue Sky and who was it? It was our friend Alex over on the East Coast. And he was talking about how you can get so much good feedback when you're doing consulting quickly. Like you get to learn about business problems quickly versus building the SaaS and are people actually going to like this? Are they going to use it? And so on. You can go and parachute into a business, see what their problems are, help them fix that problem, get paid for it while you're doing it, and get exposure to their problems and come up with ideas. And so as I was reading his post, I was just thinking back to the days when we were doing consulting and building apps for clients. And it's like, maybe we should do that, Josh. Maybe we should take a summer or something like JP did. Take a summer off for Honey Badger and just go do some consulting, parachute into some companies and get some juices flowing that way. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I haven't done consulting in so long.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, like what it ended up being also is I didn't want to do consulting on small gigs because I had some smaller gigs before the summer to have people in my network like help with app upgrades or helping juniors and things like that. And it's great. It's amazing. But I don't want to have too much context switching. So having smaller clients that you like run 3 or 4 clients at the same time, it's hard. And it's going to have like quite a mental impact on like my energy, my focus on things. So I was like, I think I need to focus just on one thing. So just one client for me right now is ideal. And I have so much fun. I don't see that changing in the foreseeable future. Who knows? Maybe in a year or 2 from now, maybe I'll change my mind. But for now, it's just stress is so low compared to what it was a year ago and 6 months ago. It's great.
Yeah, it seems like a good idea to ride that at least for a little while. I'm sure you'll get the bug, but maybe delay it as long as you can.
Yeah, there's that. That's also why I've been thinking about going back to conferences. I didn't go to RubyConf for years and years, and I was like, I want to go to a RubyConf. And Rails World, my wife was out of town, so 2 parents out of town at the same time, not great. So RubyConf I think it's in Chicago here. I was like, this is great. And then realized my daughter is off of school the same day. I'm like, yeah, well,
yeah.
not that one either.
That's right.
Yep.
So I'll find one.
Well, there's a MicroConf happening in March in New Orleans.
Oh my God. Are you serious? Great timing, great city.
Yeah.
Are we going to that, Ben?
Oh, I'm definitely going. Yeah, I'll be there.
We'll be there. So
yeah.
Okay, I'm likely to be there. I didn't know until a minute ago, but I'm likely to be there.
I think I might actually book I don't think they've released the tickets yet, but I saw someone had already booked like their lodging there, which seems like a really smart idea because you could get like, I'm sure there's a lot of cool places to stay right now.
I have family nearby, so I'll probably make
Oh,
a
that's right.
vacation out of it afterwards. And I thought, if two of us are going to be there, there's no reason why four of us can't be there. So maybe we make that a honey badger get together there, and
It's a great location
it
for
is.
that. I love, yeah, I've been
Yeah.
once and I've wanted to go back ever since.
I really want to go there, and my wife is not that interested, so that sounds like a great timing to do it for me. So yeah, I have the tab open now, so I'll
Nice.
look it up. So, what are other conferences that you guys really like or would suggest me to go?
Well, the regional Ruby conferences that have been popping up have been a lot of fun. I've been to several of those this year. I think they're mostly done, at least in the US for the year. I don't know. I think RubyConf is the last one on my radar. But I went to Madison Ruby in Madison, Wisconsin. I went to Blue Ridge Ruby in Asheville. And let's see, where Rocky Mountain Ruby was in Boulder just last month. Or maybe it was this month. The months are bleeding together. But yeah, those were a lot of fun. There's a lot of like regional Ruby conferences popping up that have been cool. And I'm sure there will be more next year. We're trying to start one up here in the Pacific Northwest again, because there hasn't been one. So we'll see. Maybe next year there will be another option on the West Coast if you want to come visit us in the Portland area.
That would be amazing. Another place I've never been to.
It's a nice place to visit, especially in the summer.
Yeah, just like Quebec. A great place to visit, mainly in the summer.
Another business conference that you might like is the Business of Software conference. That happens twice a year, and they just had the US one in October, I think it was. So the next one's going to be I think they usually have it in Cambridge in the UK in the spring. So I've been to that one a few times. Love it every time I go. It's fantastic. It's kind of like, to me, it felt kind of like a grown up microconf, people who are maybe farther down the road in the business of software.
Okay, interesting. That's what I was going to ask. Like, what's the vibe versus microcon? I'm assuming it's bigger. Is it?
It's actually, they keep it pretty small. So I'd say about 150, 200 people ish. So I think about the same size as microconf was back when last time you and I were there.
Yeah, that's a nice size for a conference. My favorite, I started Meetup 10 years. Well, even about around 10 years ago here. Meetup not for a specific language, just like a bunch of languages because it's too small. So just one dev meetup, and we did a conference in 2019, and basically it was supposed to be annual, but then a pandemic happened, and then we never returned. But yeah, I guess I really like small conferences with like 100, 150, 2,000 people, just one track. Everyone's at the same place and pretty chill. I remember, like, I think one of my favorite one was Burlington RubyConf. I don't know if you've ever been to Burlington, Vermont, but it's a pretty small town, but really nice. And the downtown is kind of small, so it's like basically just a handful of streets. So you were just hanging out in the city and meeting up other Rubyists. So it was really good vibe.
Yeah.
Um, what were your favorite conferences ever?
Oh man. I know, like, Rocky Mountain Ruby is one of my favorites. It was my second time, I think. The first was back in like 2014 or 15 maybe. And then it went away for a number of years and came back. But Boulder, Colorado is a great kind of like, I don't know, high desert, mountain, western style town. It's just, yeah, great vibe. And I mean, it's not a small town anymore, but it's like not a huge city either. And yeah, just that's pretty cool.
When in on the conference level, what sets it aside from the other ones?
That's a good question. I like there's a great vibrant Ruby community in Boulder as far as I can tell. Partially I think that is because it's been kind of a magnet for, like, they have a good tech culture there. There's a lot of tech companies that have moved to Boulder over the years or opened offices. So there's a large number of developers, but then there's also, they have like a Boulder Ruby meetup group that meets regularly that the conference came out of, as I understand it. So I think that's a great model for conferences to follow. Like, if they have a core of regular people in the area, you can start a conference out of that. But yeah, I think it's just the existing community in Boulder. And then, of course, the organizers are great and they select good talks. And yeah, I don't know. The format is like pretty much what you said, a couple hundred people, single track. So everyone's watching the same thing. It really helps with meeting people. You have a chance to pretty much talk to everyone and everyone's on the same page, which makes it easier. than like at a bigger multi-track conference where you have to compare notes on what you did the last hour or whatever.
I remember that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like smaller conferences. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, it's really hard to pick a favorite. I really liked Rocky Mountain Ruby because Boulder, yeah, like you said, it's a great town. I've really enjoyed RubyConf because you tend to get some really deep stuff at RubyConf and stuff that kind of opens your brain, you know? I did OzCon back in the day, sponsored by O'Reilly and all about open source. And that's really cool because if RubyConf is very deep, OzCon is very broad. There's all kind of projects you can learn about and things you can get exposed to. But I think like overall, if I really was forced to pick, it would come probably actually business of software just because the material, because I love the business side so much. And it's just really excellent, excellent material at business software. And the people there are also fantastic. Well, every conference are fantastic, but just the crowd is great. So yeah, I guess if you really put me to it, I'd have to pick that one.
I haven't been to a business of software still. You always go to that one. Maybe I'll have to tag along next time or
totally.
something.
Yeah. Are you guys sometimes going to conferences together, or mostly you split up? Because I'm assuming you go to conferences as part of the business to shop and be seen and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's about half and half lately, where we either split up or go together. The bigger ones will go, both of us, because there's just more people to grab and we want to make sure that we're talking to as many people as possible. The smaller ones, I think we typically just tend to do one of us because you can't have too much honey badger, right? You can be
unless we just want to hang out in that location. And
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
But yeah, we went to Rails World a few months ago, and we took all of Honey Badger was there, which was nice. Well, all four of us. But yeah, we made it a team, got like an Airbnb and made it like a team retreat / conference.
Nice.
Yeah, that was an awesome experience.
It was fun.
I'm very curious. I want to dig on that if we have time. Like, how do you manage that? Because for me, conferences have been like an effort for me to go alone and meet new people. Like when I was in Burlington, my native language is French, and back then I was really shitty in English. Well, worse than now. So I just made some goals. Like I need to meet at least 10 people and have meaningful conversations with them, not spend more than like 5 minutes alone and things like that. You can't do that as a team. It's a totally different vibe, I'm assuming. How do you manage that? Like the business side and the team side?
Yeah, well, this was our first time doing it, so maybe we're not experts yet, but I think, we had to actually, Josh and I had to come to grips with like, we want to hang out together, all four of us all the time. But at the same time, like Josh and I have people we can talk to. Kevin and Noel, they want to go see a presentation. But for us, it may be more important that we not go to that presentation and instead have some time in the hallway with a particular person that we want to talk to. And so we had to like to come to grips with this idea, like we're actually not going to spend all our time together. And so it was kind of weird. Like we didn't see Kevin and Noel like the first entire day. we were at the Airbnb together, but then at the conference, we split up and did our different things. So we actually planned time ahead of time. So like we got there a day early so that we could just hang out and let's spend some work time together. We went to a ball game the night before.
So
and
much fun.
Then it felt better then to be able to, okay, now we can have some time apart, yeah, kind of like in a marriage, right? You have some time together, you have some time apart to keep the relationship healthy, right?
It would have felt, it would have felt weird if we hadn't like had that first day. So we did the team day. That was really smart to do that. That was Ben's idea.
Yeah, that's a really smart idea indeed. I wish I've done that with my team. We went to a conference and we didn't do that. We spent a lot of time together, but like having that first day just as a team, I think it's smart. It's just like the small thing. But yeah, you're sure to spend that time with the team and they still have to hang out at the conference. So yeah, great mix.
And next up for us though is we'd like to do we're going to do like an actual team retreat that is not around a conference, hopefully. So I think that's important too. We have been really bad at doing those. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the last time they were really planning on doing one, we were gearing up for it, and that was the end of 2023 timeframe. And then I was like, oh, crud, like the revenue is not going to support what we want to do for team building activities. So we had to change those plans.
I don't know if you listened to that episode, JP, but you might want to go back. And I think it's titled Cutting to the Bone or something like that. You might have there might be some commiseration there. We had a kind of a rough year last year as well and didn't go as that, we're still here and things are better, but it was turbulent. So
Yeah, it happened to a lot of people last year, and things are getting better for most people now, slowly but surely. So that's a good part of it. So yeah, team retreats are great. You should do it when you can.
yeah,
But yeah, I really like when I was working at Rainforest QA, we were doing 4 per year. It was not always retreats. It was a mix of on-sites where like everyone not in SF were flying to SF, and we were doing some offsites. And I found out like the good, I think the good number is like probably twice per year. More than that is quite intense on the schedule for family and all that stuff. If you're all in your mid 20s with no kids, it's totally different. But that's not where I'm at. So like twice, because when you leave for a week, it's quite intense for the family and all that stuff.
that's a big reason why it's been like another reason why we've struggled to make it work in the past. It's just because like basically everyone who's worked at Honey Badger has had kids and even small children over the last whatever 7, 8 years. It's been the young kids. Like my kids are 6 and 8 now, but for a long time it was like everyone had little kids. It seemed it's hard to make the schedules all work together to find one location and place and time.
Yes, yes, that's very hard. And then you need to factor in the cost. Are you all based in the US?
We have Roel's in Toronto, but otherwise the rest of us are in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not too bad in terms of traveling. There's that too. Because again, when I was at Rainforest QA, like when you are all in North America, it's fine, but then suddenly you have people in South America, in Europe, and all that stuff, and then there's a bunch of curveballs around that.
We also have Pan. So Pan is a part-time honey badger, and he's in Cyprus, which is further than Toronto. Like it would be cool to get like our all of the extended honey badger together. But yeah,
that would be cool.
Nice. Yeah. Food for thought.
Yeah. Well, Rails World next year is going to be in Amsterdam, so we could potentially get all of us over there, and then that's a little bit closer to Cyprus.
that's true. Yeah, I always wanted to visit Amsterdam.
Another place, yeah, I should visit. Yeah.
Yeah, the Europe conference circuit. There's a like large Ruby world in Europe, and I mean, and Asia, like Japan for that matter. There's Ruby Kaigi in Japan, but Europe has really been they've really been nailing it on the Ruby conference front. Like they've got seems like tons of Ruby events. Like you go to rubyconferences is it .com or .org? I can't remember, but go search like Ruby conferences. There's a website that lists them all too. So that's a good place to check. But if you do want to do some Europe travel, I know people who it seems like they just spend their whole year going to Ruby conferences between the US and Europe. I haven't gotten over there yet, but maybe someday.
It seems like the Ruby conference landscape changed quite a bit. There's a bunch of conferences disappeared. There's no RubyConf in New York anymore, right? It was Goruko.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Maybe it'll come
was
back.
Great. But,
yeah, I know the Gusto team. They've been posting on Mastodon or Twitter lately, asking about if anybody wants to get anything started in New York City. So maybe something will come back.
Nice. Ben, you mentioned Blue Sky. Blue Sky's been having a resurgence this week with, I guess, X is making, or Twitter/X is making more terrible decisions. And there's been a bunch of people looking for alternatives again. But I just wanted to mention this. We'll put it in the show notes. But there are some startup people and bootstrappers beginning to land on Blue Sky. I think the difference between Blue Sky and Mastodon is they're both similar, like technical, like they're federated. You can go like research that if you want. But the gist is that Blue Sky feels more like 2009 Twitter in terms of the vibe and culture and just how the technology works. And some people prefer that to Mastodon for various reasons. We have a list of that you can find everyone in the bootstrapper scene on Blue Sky.
Yeah, I've seen that on Discord yesterday. How can people join your Discord?
They can join our Discord. We'll put it in the show notes for this. We did that once before. We should keep mentioning that. We have a secret Discord, not so secret. No, not, I mean, like, it's not so secret. Like, I tell everyone, but we haven't put it on Honey Badger website, for example. It's kind of like you get the invite. So yeah, you should like go come over on Blue Sky, come join our Discord and hang out with us. I need to, for some reason, Ben, I just realized I don't think I have you in the starter pack for Bootstrappers on Blue Sky.
I did notice that. Yeah.
I searched for you like earlier today, and for some reason I cannot find your account. Like I need to I don't know if that's Blue Sky's failure, but I'm just, in my defense, like I've tried a few times. I'm gonna figure it out, because you should definitely be in there, and the Ruby one for that matter. So maybe send me your account so I can add you.
Sounds very easy to find people. That's great.
Yeah. No, I mean that's not, yeah, it really is. I just don't know what's going on. Maybe I know it's not, your username is not Stimpy over there.
It is not. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, come to Blue Sky. It's great. Twitter continues to feel more like Truth Social, and Blue Sky feels more like Twitter.
I create an account right after this.
I'm really trying to sell it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's interesting to see how many bad decisions can be done at X and still being around.
I'm sure it's probably not going anywhere, but it's good to have options, right? Like, it's good to have lots of options. Well, this has been awesome, JP.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
I don't you have much more of a beard than the last time I think I saw you in 2018. It's just great to see you again in person.
The beard update in person.
Yeah, you just missed me I had the beard a few years ago, so we're just missing each other.
Damn, we need to work on that.
Yeah, we got to get that figured out. Cool.
Well, it was really good to have you to chat with you guys.
Is there anything you want in show notes, or any social media, or anywhere, anything people can do to help you out and what's next? We'll just
not really. Just follow me on my new Blue Sky account in a few minutes.
Chat and join the discussion in the Honey Badger FounderQuest Discord. I know you're in there too. All right. Well, this has been FounderQuest. You can find us at founderquestpodcast.com, and please give us ratings and reviews on the websites, and we will be back the next time we're back.
FounderQuest is a weekly podcast by the founders of Honey Badger. Zero instrumentation, 360-degree coverage of errors, outages, and service degradations for your web apps. If you have a web app, you need it. Available at honeybadger.io. Want more from the founders? Go to founderquestpodcast.com. That's one word, where you can access our huge back catalog of episodes. FounderQuest is available on iTunes, Spotify, and other purveyors of fine podcasts. We'll see you next week.